The crystal champagne flute trembled in my hand as my mother's words cut through the air like daggers. Well, at least some of my children understand the importance of family values. She raised her glass toward my brother Lionel and his wife Delaney, their matching wedding bands glinting under the chandelier. I'm Vanessa, and at 30 years old, I've become the family's cautionary tale, the unmarried daughter who dared to prioritize her dreams over society's expectations. Did you hear about Sarah's daughter? My sister-in-law Delaney's voice carried across the dining room, deliberately loud enough for me to hear. Already engaged, and she's only 25. Some women just understand their priorities better than others. I took another sip of champagne, forcing a smile as my younger sister Riley caught my eye from across the table. She gave me a subtle, sympathetic look before quickly averting her gaze. Even she, my closest ally, couldn't openly support me without risking our mother's disapproval. Vanessa, dear, my father Harold cleared his throat, have you given any more thought to joining the family business? There's always room for you in accounting. Actually, Dad, I've been working on something of my own, I said, straightening my spine. I'm launching a wellness company focused on women's empowerment. Oh, not this again, my mother Andrea interrupted, pressing her fingers to her temples. Honestly, Vanessa, when will you grow up? Look at your brother. He's running a successful investment firm, has a beautiful wife, a house in the suburbs. And I'm happy for him, I replied, my voice steady despite the storm brewing inside me. But that's not my path. Lionel smirked from his end of the table. Come on, sis. These little passion projects of yours are cute, but it's time to face reality. You're not getting any younger. The room fell silent as all eyes turned to me, waiting for my reaction. I could feel the weight of their judgment, their disappointment, their certainty that I was making a mistake. But something inside me had finally snapped. You know what? I stood up, placing my napkin on the table. I'm done apologizing for choosing my own path. I'm done trying to fit into your narrow definition of success. Vanessa, sit down, my mother hissed. You're making a scene. No, Mother, I'm making a choice. I grabbed my purse from the back of my chair. And my choice is to leave this toxic environment and build something meaningful on my own terms. You'll fail, Delaney said, her words dripping with false concern. And when you do, don't come crying to us. I laughed, surprising even myself with how hollow it sounded. Watch me succeed, and when I do, remember this moment. As I walked toward the door, Riley jumped up. Vanessa, wait. Let her go, our mother snapped. She needs to learn the hard way. I paused at the doorway, turning back one last time. You know what's funny? You're all so focused on status and appearances that you can't see what really matters. But I promise you, one day you'll understand exactly what I mean. The door closed behind me with a satisfying click, and for the first time in years, I felt like I could breathe. My hands were shaking as I pulled out my phone and opened my business plan document, the one I'd been working on in secret for months. The screen illuminated my face as I sat in my car, scrolling through pages of market research, financial projections, and marketing strategies. They thought I was just dreaming, but they had no idea how prepared I was. Every dismissive comment, every condescending smile had only fueled my determination. My phone buzzed with a text from Riley. I'm sorry about tonight. Are you okay? I typed back, I'm better than okay. I'm free. Starting the engine, I caught a glimpse of myself in the rearview mirror. The woman staring back at me wasn't the failure they saw. She was a fighter, an entrepreneur, a force to be reckoned with. And someday they would all see it too. As I pulled away from my parents' mansion, I made a promise to myself. I would build something so successful, so impactful, that they couldn't ignore it. And when the time came, because it would come, they would have to acknowledge that their failure of a daughter had become something they never expected. Little did I know then that karma had a way of making things interesting, and my moment would come sooner than any of us could have anticipated. 18 months after walking out of that dinner party, I stood in front of 50 women at my first wellness retreat, my heart pounding, but my voice steady. Welcome to empowered living, I said, scanning the eager faces before me. This weekend isn't just about self-care, it's about reclaiming your power. The journey here hadn't been easy. My small apartment had become command central, with my dining table doubling as both office and occasional bed when late nights bled into early mornings. But every sacrifice was worth it. Vanessa, my assistant Maya burst through the door of my office waving a tablet. Forbes wants to feature us in their 30 under 30s section. They're impressed by our growth numbers. I nearly dropped my coffee. Are you serious? Dead serious. They specifically mentioned how we've helped over 1,000 women start their own businesses through our mentorship program. The irony wasn't lost on me. A flashback hit me like a wave, my father's voice echoing in his study the day I'd asked him to invest in my company. "This is ridiculous, Vanessa," he'd said, not even looking up from his newspaper. "Women's empowerment? That's not a real business model. Come back when you have a serious proposition." Maya's voice pulled me back to the present. Also, Sierra called again. I tensed. Sierra, my former friend who'd launched a competing wellness brand 6 months after seeing my success, had been trying to reach me for weeks. What did she want? She's suggesting a partnership. Says it would be mutually beneficial. Maya made air quotes with her fingers. The same Sierra who told everyone I stole her business idea? I shook my head. Not happening. My phone buzzed, Riley's face lighting up the screen. I hadn't spoken to her in months, not since she'd defended our mother's latest criticism of my life choices. "Hey, sis," I answered, trying to keep my tone neutral. "Van, I just saw the article about your company in Business Weekly," she said, her voice excited. "Why didn't you tell me you're expanding to 3 new cities?" Would anyone in the family have actually cared? Silence stretched between us before she spoke again. "Mum saw it too. She kept the magazine." I swallowed hard, pushing down the hope that threatened to rise. Let me guess, she's still waiting for me to fail? No, I think she's starting to realize she was wrong. Even Lionel mentioned your success at dinner last week. "Speaking of Lionel," I said, changing the subject, "how's his investment firm doing? Still telling everyone I'm making a mistake while he plays with other people's money?" Riley's hesitation was telling. I probably shouldn't say anything. Before I could press further, Maya knocked on my door again, pointing urgently at her watch. I had a meeting with potential investors in 15 minutes. "Riley, I have to go. Actual business to run, you know." "Wait," she said quickly. "Will you come to Dad's birthday dinner next week, please? Things are different now." I thought about all the milestones I'd celebrated alone, signing my first office lease, landing my first major client, seeing my company's name in print. Where were they then? "I'll think about it," I said finally, ending the call. The rest of the day flew by in a blur of meetings, client calls, and planning sessions for our next retreat. At midnight, I finally locked up the office, the city lights twinkling below our high-rise location. My phone pinged with a notification. An email from Sierra. "Vanessa, I know we have our differences, but we need to talk. It's important. Things aren't what they seem with certain people we both know. Please call me." I deleted the email without responding. Success had taught me one valuable lesson. Some bridges are better left burned. As I drove home, I passed the street leading to my parents' house. The same house where they'd dismissed my dreams, where Lionel and Delaney had smirked at my plans, where I'd finally found the courage to walk away. My company's latest financial report sat in my bag, numbers that proved every doubter wrong. Sometimes I imagined sending copies to everyone who'd laughed at me, but success was proving to be the sweetest revenge. Little did I know that fate was about to hand me an even better opportunity for payback, because sometimes karma doesn't just knock. It kicks down the door and demands attention. I pulled into my parking spot, exhausted but satisfied. Tomorrow would bring new challenges, new opportunities, and maybe, just maybe, a chance to show my family exactly what their failure of a daughter had become. The universe, as I was about to discover, had quite the sense of humour. The call came at 3 a.m., jolting me awake. Riley's name flashed on my screen, and my stomach dropped. Nobody calls at this hour with good news. Van? Her voice cracked. Everything's falling apart. I sat up, fully alert. What's wrong? It's Lionel. His firm. There was an investigation. The SEC found irregularities. They're freezing all assets. She was crying now. But that's not even the worst part. What do you mean? Dad invested everything with him. The house, his retirement fund, everything. Mum's hysterical. Delaney's parents lost their savings too, and she hesitated. I put my startup money in his fund. The room seemed to spin. How much are we talking about? Millions. All gone. And there's more. Sierra's company was one of his biggest investors. She's been trying to warn you. Suddenly, Sierra's cryptic messages made sense. I felt sick. Where are you now? I asked, already pulling on clothes. At Mum and Dad's. Lionel's here too. Delaney's screaming at him, and Mum keeps saying she can't breathe. Can you please come? I grabbed my keys, torn between satisfaction and genuine concern. I'll be there in 20 minutes. The scene at my parents' house was chaos. Delaney was pacing the living room, mascara streaking her face. My mother sat rigid in her armchair, looking older than I'd ever seen her. Dad stood by the window, silent and shell-shocked. Lionel hunched on the couch, head in his hands. "Oh, look who's here!" Delaney spat when I walked in. "Come to gloat." "That's enough," Riley snapped, surprising everyone. "Vanessa's here because I called her." My father turned from the window. "Vanessa," he said, his voice hollow, "your brother. He made some mistakes," Lionel cut in, "but I can fix this. I just need time." "Time?" Delaney whirled on him. "The FBI is involved. We're ruined. My parents are ruined." My mother finally spoke, her voice barely a whisper. "We'll have to sell the house. Everything we built." I stood there, watching my family crumble. The revenge fantasy I'd harbored suddenly felt hollow. These broken people before me weren't the mighty judges who'd condemned my choices. They were just humans who'd put their faith in the wrong person. "There might be a way," I heard myself say. All eyes turned to me. "What do you mean?" Riley asked. I took a deep breath. "My company's doing well. Very well. I could help, but what?" My mother leaned forward, hope flickering in her eyes. "There would be conditions." I met each of their gazes. "Strict ones." Lionel stood up. "We don't need your charity." "Sit down," Dad barked, the first sign of emotion he'd shown all night. "Let her speak." I walked to the center of the room, feeling the weight of power shift. "I can help with living expenses, legal fees, and maybe even save the house, but you'll all need to work for it." "Work?" Delaney's voice dripped with disdain. "What kind of work?" "My wellness retreats need staff, real people who understand what it means to lose everything and rebuild. You'll work as volunteers, sharing your stories, helping other women avoid the same mistakes." The silence was deafening. "You want us to confess our failures to strangers?" My mother looked horrified. "I want you to help others while helping yourselves, to understand what real value is." I turned to Lionel. "And you'll need to make full restitution to everyone you hurt, starting with Sierra." "This is ridiculous," Delaney started, but Lionel grabbed her arm. "We'll do it," he said quietly. My father nodded slowly. "Whatever it takes." My mother just stared at her hands, tears falling silently. Riley stepped forward. "When do we start?" I pulled out my phone and opened my calendar. "There's a retreat next weekend, but first we need to talk to my lawyers and set everything in writing." I looked at each of them. No shortcuts this time. As I drove home that night, my phone buzzed with a text from Riley. "Thank you, but please tell me this isn't just about revenge." I stared at her message for a long time before responding. It's about justice, and maybe healing, for all of us. The sun was rising as I pulled into my parking spot, casting long shadows across the city. In a few hours, I'd need to tell Maya to clear my schedule and call the lawyers. But for now, I sat in my car, watching the dawn break over a world that had shifted on its axis. Sometimes karma doesn't just come full circle, it hands you the pen to write the next chapter yourself. The conference room felt smaller than usual as my family filed in, looking like defendants at a trial. My lawyer, Rachel, spread documents across the polished table while Maya distributed copies to everyone. "These are the terms," I began, standing at the head of the table. "Read them carefully." Lionel scanned the first page, his face darkening. 6 months of mandatory participation, weekly sessions. "Keep reading," I said, watching their expressions change as they reached the financial details. My mother gasped. "This is generous." "It's more than generous," Rachel interjected. "Ms. Simpson is essentially offering a lifeline while taking on significant risk to her company's reputation." Delaney slammed her copy down. "This is humiliating. You want me to share my journey of financial recovery with your clients? I'm not some cautionary tale." "Actually," I leaned forward, "that's exactly what you are. All of you. The wealthy family who look down on others while building their fortune on sand. Now you have a choice. Swallow your pride or drown in debt." "Vanessa," my father's voice wavered. "Some of these requirements, greeting guests, serving meals, maintenance work. Basic human interactions, Dad. The kind you thought were beneath you when I started out." Riley was the only one nodding as she read. "This makes sense. We need to understand value from the ground up." "There's more." Maya stepped forward, clicking through a presentation. "Each of you will be assigned specific roles based on your experiences." The room tensed as their assignments appeared on screen. "Lionel, you'll lead our financial responsibility workshops, share exactly how pride and greed can destroy lives." I watched him flinch. "Delaney, you'll assist with our first-time entrepreneur program, showing them what not to do." "And me?" My mother's voice was barely audible. "You'll work with women struggling with family expectations and societal pressure. Who better than someone who nearly destroyed her daughter's spirit trying to maintain appearances?" She looked away, tears forming. "Your father will handle maintenance and groundskeeping. Riley, you'll assist Maya with administration." I paused. "Any questions?" Lionel stood up, his chair scraping against the floor. "This is revenge, plain and simple." "No," I countered. "Revenge would be letting you all suffer the consequences of your actions alone. This is an opportunity for growth." "And if we refuse?" Delaney challenged. Rachel cleared her throat. "Then you face bankruptcy proceedings alone. The house goes into foreclosure, and Mr. Leonard faces potential criminal charges without any support for his defense." Silence fell over the room. "I'll do it," Riley said firmly, picking up a pen. One by one they signed, my father first, then my mother, her hand trembling. Lionel and Delaney were last, their signatures angry slashes across the paper. "The first retreat starts Friday," Maya announced. "You'll need to arrive by 7 a.m. for orientation." "7?" My mother looked horrified. "But welcome to the real world, Mom," I cut her off, "where success requires more than just marrying well and judging others." As they filed out, Riley hung back. "Van, I know they deserve this, but what? Just remember you're better than their worst moments. Don't let this change who you are." I watched through my office window as they left the building, my family now effectively my employees. The power shift was complete, but Riley's words echoed in my mind. My phone buzzed. A message from Sierra. "Heard about the deal with your family. Smart move. Can we talk now? There's still more you need to know." Before I could respond, Maya entered with a stack of papers. "The press release about the new Family Wisdom Initiative is ready for your review. And the first group of retreat participants is confirmed. 30 women, all excited about learning from real-world experiences." I smiled, imagining my mother serving breakfast to women she would have previously snubbed at country club meetings. "Perfect. One more thing," Maya hesitated. "Lionel's wife, Delaney, she's pregnant. She didn't want anyone to know yet, but I thought you should be aware." The news hit me like a punch to the gut. A baby. An innocent life about to be born into this mess of pride and consequences. I sat down heavily in my chair. Make sure her duties are appropriate for her condition. And add prenatal wellness sessions to her schedule. "Of course." Maya paused at the door. "You're doing the right thing, you know. They need this wake-up call." As the sun set over the city, I wondered if Riley was right. Was I really better than their worst moments? Or was I just better at disguising my revenge as redemption? Friday would tell. And something told me this was just the beginning of a very complicated journey. 3 weeks into the Family Wisdom Initiative, I stood at the back of our main conference room, watching my mother address a group of women. Her hands weren't shaking anymore. "I spent 30 years judging my daughter for choosing independence over marriage," she said, her voice carrying across the hushed room. "I thought I was protecting her. Instead, I almost lost her." A woman in the front row wiped away tears. Others nodded in understanding. "Mrs. Andrea," one participant raised her hand. "How did it feel when your daughter became more successful than your son?" I held my breath, waiting for her rehearsed answer. But what came next surprised me. "It felt like a mirror being held up to my face," my mother admitted. "Every criticism I'd ever made, every disapproving look, they all came back to haunt me. And now?" She glanced at me. "Now I'm learning from her." The session ended with a standing ovation. As the room cleared, Riley appeared beside me. "She's different," I murmured. "They all are," Riley replied. "Even Dad. Yesterday he fixed a broken chair and looked proud. Actually proud. Not just rich person proud." A commotion from the hallway interrupted us. Delaney's voice rang out, sharp and angry. "I will not be treated like this. I'm carrying your grandchild." We rushed out to find Delaney confronting my mother, who stood her ground with unexpected grace. "Sweetheart," my mother said calmly, "being pregnant doesn't excuse you from basic kindness. That participant asked for water, not a personal attack." "Do you know who I am? Who we were?" "Yes," my mother replied. "We were privileged people who confused money with worth. Now we're learning the difference." I stepped forward, but Riley held me back. "Let them handle it," she whispered. Delaney turned to storm off, but stopped short at the sight of Sierra walking down the hallway. "What is she doing here?" Delaney's face went pale. Sierra smiled coldly. "I'm here to discuss restitution with Lionel. You know, the money your husband stole from my company." "He didn't steal," Delaney started. "Save it," Sierra cut her off. "The SEC documents say otherwise." She turned to me. "Ready for that meeting?" I nodded, leading Sierra to my office. Through the glass walls, I could see Delaney sink into a chair, my mother awkwardly patting her shoulder. "Your family's quite the show," Sierra said, settling into a chair. "But that's not why I'm here." "The restitution is part of it," she interrupted. "But there's more. Your brother didn't act alone." My stomach dropped. "What do you mean?" "Someone helped him hide the money. Someone who knew exactly what they were doing." She pulled out her phone, showing me emails. "Someone close to your family." As I read the emails, my hands started shaking. This can't be right. "Your father's signature is on everything, Vanessa. He wasn't just an investor, he was a co-conspirator." The world tilted sideways. Through the glass, I could see my father in the garden patiently teaching a group of women about maintaining the herb garden we used for our organic cooking classes. He looked peaceful. "Does Lionel know?" Sierra shook her head. "Your brother thinks he's protecting your father, but your father was protecting himself." A knock at the door made us both jump. Maya entered with a concerned look. "Sorry to interrupt, but there's something you need to see." "Lionel's financial responsibility workshop, it's going viral." She held up her tablet, showing a video of my brother, tears streaming down his face, telling his story to a packed room. "I thought I was untouchable," his voice cracked in the video. "I thought money made me better than everyone else. I was wrong. And I hurt everyone I loved because of it." "Well," Sierra said softly, "looks like at least one family member is finding redemption." I stood up, my mind racing. I need time to process this, the information about my father. "Won't stay secret forever," Sierra finished. "The investigators are closing in. You need to decide what you're going to do." As she left, Riley entered, excitement on her face. "Van, you won't believe what just happened. Mom actually apologized to Delaney for how she treated her when she first married Lionel." They're both crying in the break room. I stared at the emails on my desk, then at my family through the glass walls. All of them playing their parts, some finding genuine change, others hiding deeper secrets. Riley, I said slowly, what would you do if you discovered that helping someone meant hurting someone else? She studied my face. This isn't just about revenge anymore, is it? No, I replied, watching my father tend to his herbs, wondering how many other things he'd carefully cultivated besides his lies. It's about truth, and it's about to get much more complicated. Dad, we need to talk. I stood in the retreat's garden watching him prune the lavender bushes he'd come to love over the past month. He straightened up slowly, wiping his hands on his work pants. The morning sun caught the new calluses on his palms, hands that used to only hold golf clubs and stock reports. About the SEC investigation, I continued. About what you did. The pruning shears clattered to the ground. Who told you? Does it matter? What matters is you let Lionel take all the blame. Vanessa, you don't understand. Then help me understand. My voice echoed across the garden. Help me understand why my father, who lectured us about integrity our whole lives, helped orchestrate a financial fraud. He sank onto a nearby bench. It started small, just a few adjustments to help Lionel's numbers look better. Then it grew. Before I knew it. Before you knew it, you were hiding millions, destroying lives. I was protecting our family name. No, I stepped closer. You were protecting your pride, just like when you dismissed my business plans, just like when you... Ms. Simpson, Maya's voice interrupted us. The investigators are here. They're asking for both Mr. Harold and Lionel. My father's face went ash white. Through the garden windows, I could see two suited figures in the lobby, badges visible on their belts. Dad, I said quietly, you have a choice. You can come clean now, or what's going on? Lionel appeared behind us, Delaney hovering anxiously at his side. Dad, why are the feds here for you? Our father stood, straightening his gardening apron with trembling hands. Son, I need to tell you something. But before he could continue, my mother burst into the garden. Harold, don't you dare, we'll lose everything. We already have, I cut in. The only thing left to lose is our integrity. Again, Lionel looked between us, realization dawning on his face. Dad, what did you do? The next hour unfolded like a slow-motion car crash. In the conference room, my father confessed everything to the investigators, while Lionel sat in stunned silence. My mother wept quietly in the corner as Delaney gripped Riley's hand so hard her knuckles went white. Both parties will need to surrender their passports, one investigator said, making notes. Given your cooperation and the restitution program already in place through Ms. Simpson's company, we'll recommend minimal custody time, but... Custody? My mother's head snapped up. Prison? Mom, I said gently, what did you expect? Sierra, who'd been quietly observing, stepped forward. I'm willing to work with them on the restitution terms, given the circumstances. The circumstances? Delaney stood up, her pregnancy now visible beneath her flowing top. My child will be born while both their father and grandfather are in prison. How's that for circumstances? Lionel reached for her hand. Dee, please, this isn't helping. No, you know what would have helped. She spun to face my father. If you had been honest from the start, if you hadn't dragged my husband into your schemes. That's enough, Riley interrupted. We need solutions, not blame. I looked at my family, really looked at them. My father slumped in defeat. My brother facing the consequences of both his actions and his trust. My mother, her carefully constructed world crumbling. And through it all, the retreat participants outside the window going about their transformative journeys, unaware of the drama unfolding inside. I have a proposition, I said, drawing everyone's attention. We modify the current arrangement. Dad and Lionel will need to face legal consequences, but the retreat program continues. Mum, Delaney, Riley, you keep working here. Keep helping others learn from our family's mistakes. And what about the baby? Delaney whispered. We'll make sure they know their father and grandfather as men who faced their mistakes, not as men who ran from them. The investigators exchanged glances and nodded. That could work in their favor during sentencing. As they led my father and brother out to process the paperwork, Sierra touched my arm. "You're doing the right thing." "Am I?" I watched my mother collapse into Riley's arms. "Because it feels like I'm destroying what's left of my family." "No," Sierra replied. "You're forcing them to rebuild on a foundation of truth this time. It's painful, but necessary." Through the window, I could see the garden my father had tended so carefully. Like the herbs he'd planted, truth needed time to take root and grow. But unlike his financial deceptions, these roots would be strong, real, and lasting. Maya appeared with fresh contracts and paperwork. It was time to write the next chapter of our family's story, one where redemption came through honesty, not hiding. The courtroom fell silent as the judge prepared to deliver the sentences. 3 months had passed since the truth came out, and now everything would change again. In the matter of federal securities fraud, the judge began. This court sentences Harold Simpson to 18 months in federal prison, followed by 3 years of supervised release. My mother's sharp intake of breath echoed through the room. Riley squeezed my hand. "For defendant Lionel Simpson, considering his cooperation and lesser involvement, 12 months in federal prison, followed by 2 years of supervised release." Delaney, now visibly pregnant, buried her face in her hands. The baby would be 3 months old before Leonel could hold them. "Your Honor," my father stood, his voice shaking. "Before you conclude, may I address the court?" The judge nodded. "I've spent the past 3 months working in my daughter's wellness retreat, tending gardens and watching women rebuild their lives. Every day I saw the kind of courage I lacked. People facing their mistakes honestly." He turned to face the gallery. "I failed as a father long before I failed as a businessman. I taught my children that appearance matters more than integrity. Today, I'm learning the opposite from them." Leonel stood next to him. "And I learned it too late that success built on lies isn't success at all." As the bailiff led them away, Delaney rushed forward. "Wait, please, just one moment." The judge nodded, and Leonel turned back. Delaney pressed something into his hand, a sonogram picture. "It's a girl," she whispered. The doors closed behind them, leaving us in stunned silence until my mother's voice cut through the quiet. "This is your fault," she hissed at me. "If you hadn't forced us into that retreat program, if you hadn't brought Sierra in—" "Stop it!" Riley's voice was sharp. "Van didn't force Dad to commit fraud. She didn't make Leonel lie. She gave us a chance to make things right." "Right?" My mother laughed bitterly. "My husband and son are going to prison. How is that right?" "Because they're finally facing consequences," I said quietly. "Just like we're all facing the consequences of the lies we lived with." Sierra approached us, her lawyer beside her. "The restitution agreement still stands. The retreat program is helping repay the investors, and your family's story is actually attracting more participants." "Our tragedy is your marketing tool," Delaney snapped. "No," Sierra replied calmly. "Your redemption is inspiring others. There's a difference." Back at the retreat center that evening, I found my mother sitting in the garden my father had created. She touched a lavender sprig gently. "He called me last night," she said without looking up. "Said he finally understands why you chose this path. Said watching women find their strength here made him realize how wrong we were about you." "Mom." "No, let me finish." She stood facing me. "I was so focused on what other people thought that I never thought about what was right. Your father did the same thing with money. We taught our children all the wrong lessons." "Not all of them." Riley appeared with 3 cups of tea. "You taught us family sticks together. We're just redefining what that means." Delaney joined us, her hand resting on her belly. "The baby kicked today during my session with the entrepreneurs group, right when I was telling them about how status and money aren't what make you valuable." "She's learning already," Riley smiled. Maya rushed out to the garden. Vanessa, you need to see this. The New York Times wants to do a feature on the retreat program. They're calling it From Fraud to Freedom, a family's journey to redemption. No, I said, surprising everyone. We're not doing that. But the publicity, this isn't about publicity anymore. I looked at my mother, at Delaney, at Riley. This is about healing. Real healing. My mother nodded slowly. For the first time in my life, I don't care what people think. I just care about making things right. As night fell over the retreat centre, we sat in the garden my father had planted, drinking tea and planning for Lionel's daughter's future. Not a future built on appearances or wealth, but on truth and resilience. My phone buzzed. A message from the prison. Dad had been assigned to teach gardening in the prison's rehabilitation program. Lionel was joining a financial literacy initiative for inmates. They're still teaching, I said, showing the message to everyone. Just different lessons now. Delaney touched her belly again. When she asks about her father and grandfather, we'll tell her they were brave enough to change. That's worth more than any fortune they lost. The lavender swayed in the evening breeze. Its scent a reminder that growth comes in unexpected ways. Sometimes it takes losing everything to find what really matters. And sometimes I realized revenge isn't about making others suffer. It's about making them see the truth, even when it hurts. The prison visiting room buzzed with quiet conversation as I sat across from my father, watching him hold his granddaughter for the first time. Baby Emma's tiny hand wrapped around his finger, while Delaney hovered nearby, her protective instincts warring with the need to let her daughter know her grandfather. She has Lionel's eyes, Dad said softly, then looked up at me. Thank you for arranging this. The retreat's lawyer made it happen, I replied. Apparently our program's success carries some weight now. I heard, he nodded. Your mother told me about the Governor's Award for Social Impact and about the new locations opening up. 3 more retreats by spring, I confirmed. Riley's managing the expansion. A guard approached our table. Mr. Harold, your gardening class starts in 10 minutes. Dad carefully handed Emma back to Delaney. The vegetables we planted last month are ready for harvest. We're donating them to local shelters. Just like we do at the retreat, I smiled. I learned from the best. He stood, then hesitated. Vanessa, when I get out, would there be room for one more gardener at your retreat? We'll see, I said, but we both knew the answer was yes. Later that day, I walked into our main conference room to find my mother leading a session on redefining success. The irony wasn't lost on me. Society told me that my daughter's worth was tied to marriage and status, she was saying. I told her the same thing. We were both wrong. True worth comes from being authentic, from having the courage to stand up for your beliefs. The room erupted in applause. As the participants filed out, Sierra entered with a stack of documents. Final restitution payments, she announced. Everything's settled. Your family's program actually helped recover more than the original losses. We all won something more valuable anyway, my mother said, joining us. Perspective. Maya burst in, excitement radiating from her. Lionel's program proposal got approved. The prison wants him to expand his financial literacy classes to all minimum security facilities in the state. He finally found his real calling, Delaney added, rocking Emma, teaching others to avoid his mistakes. Riley appeared with fresh coffee for everyone. Speaking of teaching, guess who just signed up for our next retreat? Aunt Patricia. You know, the one who used to call Vanessa a rebellious disappointment at every family gathering. Karma really does come full circle, Sierra laughed. I looked around the room at these women, my once judgmental mother now empowering others, my former rival Sierra, now a trusted ally. Delaney transforming from entitled princess to conscious parent. Riley growing into a confident leader. Van, Riley touched my arm. There's someone here to see you. In the doorway stood a young woman, barely 20. Ms. Vanessa? I'm sorry to interrupt, but I'm here because of your father's story. My dad's doing the same thing, hiding money, lying to investors. I don't want to end up like your family did, but I don't want to lose mine either. My mother stepped forward. Sweetheart, sit down. Let us tell you what real loss and real gain looks like. As they gathered around the young woman, I slipped out to the garden. The lavender my father planted had spread, creating a purple haven of peace. My phone buzzed with a message from Lionel. Just taught my biggest class yet. One guy said I saved his family by showing him where his choices would lead. Maybe that's what this was all about, I typed back. It was about growth, just not the kind we originally planned. The sun was setting over the retreat centre, casting long shadows across the garden my father built, the classrooms where my mother found her voice, the spaces where Delaney learned humility, and the offices where Riley discovered her strength. This wasn't the revenge I'd imagined when I first offered to help my family. It was something better, a transformation that touched not just them, but countless others. Emma's cry echoed from inside, followed by Delaney's gentle shushing. Soon she'd be walking these gardens, growing up in a family that had learned the hard way what really matters. I picked a sprig of lavender, twirling it between my fingers. The sweet scent reminded me of something my father said during his last court appearance. Sometimes you have to lose your way completely to find a better path. We'd all lost our way. We'd all found something better, and maybe that was the point all along. Maya appeared in the garden. Ready? The evening session's about to start. I nodded, tucking the lavender into my pocket. It was time to help another group of women write their own stories of transformation. After all, that's what growing through the cracks in our broken places is all about.